Good morning and welcome. I now declare the Scenic Regional Council Ordinary Meeting for Wednesday the 25th of September 2024 open. And I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land on which we gather and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. I believe today we have a full attendance of council and, with no apologies, with Councillor Hay joining us by conference video. And I now welcome for prayers Pastor James McCulloch from the Harvest Point Church, Boonah, will offer prayers this morning. Thank you, Pastor.
Unmuting, Ollie. Ollie. It's not unmuting. It's not unmuting. Doesn't give me option.
I'll give them a second.
Got him, yeah.
Got him?
No, hang on, I'm going to dial him in again. It's not.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
No, it's okay. It's coming in.
Hello.
There he is.
Hello.
Thank you, Pastor James. Sorry about the technical hiccup. We've now got you.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Okay, you couldn't hear me before?
We've been able to work. Pastor James, good morning, and we've been able to work through that technical hiccup. We can now hear you. I hope you can hear us.
Okay.
Over to you,
Yep.
Pastor.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Yep. Lord Jesus, we just thank you for this beautiful area that we live in, the beautiful scenic rim. Father, we thank you for the people that live in this district. And we thank you that we have the honour of being able to serve them. And Lord, we just ask for heavenly wisdom as we go into our meeting today. Let us not have personal agendas, but let us have the agenda of wanting to serve everybody that lives here. Let our hearts be open, that we want nothing but the best for the district. We thank you for the beautiful natural resources that we have, the wonderful water, the dams, the farmers, the fertile soil. Lord, we just give you thanks and we declare that the scenic rim is a beautiful place to bring people up, to get to know you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pastor James, given the technical hiccups, I won't hold you any further, just in case, but thank you for your prayers, your wise words, and I will bid you a very good day. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Bless you.
Okay, we have no questions on notice today. No. I now just call upon from the members any prescribed or declarable conflicts.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Call upon any members with any prescribed or declarable conflicts of interest.
Mayor, I just would like to declare a potential conflict of interest with item 11.4 on the agenda, compliance and enforcement policy and procedure. Just for the information in the interest of public knowledge and transparency, I run a small camping business on my property. I'm currently negotiating with council towards compliance for that business. Item 11.5 the conflict of interest provisions with regard to the planning scheme. The amendments to the planning scheme do not apply to councillors. If the matter is an ordinary business matter and making or amending the planning scheme is exempt from conflict of interest provisions. So I guess my only concern is 11.4, and I would leave it to my fellow councillors if they are happy for me to remain involved in those discussions and decisions.
Thank you, councillor, and we'll address that at item 11.4.
Thank you.
Members, any other conflicts of interest?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Hay here. I'm declaring a prescribed conflict of interest in item 12.2, and I'll elaborate further when we get to that item. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor.
Through Mr. Mayor, can we just be sure it's a declarable interest, conflict of interest?
I'm declaring a conflict of interest, potential conflict of interest.
No, sorry, councillor Hay, just going through councillor Moriarty, but you're making a declarable.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to announcements. And councillors, we pause today to mark the passing of a much loved and admired member of the Scenic Rim community, late John Deeks. Our region's first town crier, John will long be remembered for the contribution to local community groups through which he touched many lives, setting an example of selfless service to others. And I would like now to introduce Councillor Marshall Chalk to say a few words.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure today to say a few words on behalf of John Deeks. Many in the Scenic Rim and beyond will be saddened to learn of the passing on Friday the 13th September of one of the region's most remarkable residents, John Deeks. As Burner's first town crier, and then for the wider Scenic Rim region, John brought dignity to the many events at which he performed his duties for some 20 years before his retirement in 2019. Last week, a celebration of John's life was held at the Salvation Army Fassifern, just one of the many organisations to which he gave his time and his talents through street ministry and running Monday night Bible studies. John encouraged others to give generously to the Salvation Army's annual Red Shield Appeal and will be remembered by many in Burner for his perennial presence outside the IJ supermarket, where he rattled the tin for the church's welfare work. A lover of brass bands, John was a member of the Burner Salvation Army Band, and with his wife Angie, was also a founding member of the Burners Community Band. John and Angie were also instrumental in establishing Burner's radio station RIM FM 100.1, and he was also involved with the Burner RSL and Anzac Day parades. Community service was a hallmark of John's life. Before settling in Australia, he served as a bobby with the London Police. One of the highlights of his long life was being awarded the Freedom of the City of London at a ceremony in Great Britain in 2019. In 2021, shortly after celebrating his 89th birthday, John's outstanding service to our community was recognised with the Mayoral Award at the Scenic Rim Australia Day Awards. In the days since his passing, John has been remembered as a great man, a remarkable man who lived fiercely and loudly, and lived a life filled with service and compassion. On behalf of Scenic Rim Regional Council and our community, I extend my condolences to John's family and many friends. In lieu of flowers, John's family have asked that donations be made to a cause close to their hearts, the Prostate Cancer Foundation of Australia. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Chalk, and definitely a life well lived. All right, we do not have any deputations by appointment or presentation of petitions. Now we'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes and call upon someone to move the minutes for the ordinary meeting on the 28th of August 2024.
I'm happy to move that, Mayor. Oh, sorry.
Councillor
Happy for
Moriarty.
me. Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 28th of August 2024 be adopted.
A seconder for that? Councillor Cryer. Are there any questions in relation to those minutes? I put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Motion carried. Councillor Hay?
In favour, thank you.
Carried unanimously. Any business arising from the previous minutes? Thank you. I now call upon Councillor Chalk to introduce item 11.1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today I'll introduce 11.1, end of year close down 2024-2025. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, and I'll take the report as being read, so I'll move straight to a motion. That one, council office, including customer care and engagement, will be closed from 3 p.m. on Tuesday the 24th of December 2024, up to and including Wednesday the 1st of January 2025, reopening on Thursday the 2nd of January 2025. Two, councils, libraries and community and cultural centres will be closed from 3 p.m. on Tuesday 24th of December 2024, up to and including Sunday the 5th of January 2025, reopening on Monday the 6th of January 2025, with employees returning to work on Thursday the 2nd of January 2025. Three, council's operational works, including depots, be restricted to skeleton crews from Monday the 23rd of December 2024, up to and including Friday the 3rd of January 2025, with a return to work scheduled for normal operations on Monday the 6th of January 2025. And four, the Chief Executive Officer advertised the closures and the relevant contact details for customer requests over this period.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Sanders, thank you. Councillor Chalk, as you said, it's pretty perfunctory. Do you want to talk to the motion?
I don't think so, Mr. Mayor. We do this every year. We just set some firm dates for our staff and the community, so happy to move on.
Thank you. No one wanting to talk against the motion?
Yeah, just a clarification, please. I think Councillor Chalk read out the 23rd of December, not the 24th.
You mean in,
In number 3, sorry. Yeah,
which is the 23rd of December?
yeah.
It is the correct date.
It's written here as the 24th, just for clarification.
In point 3, it's at the 23rd, I think you'll find, Councillor.
Yeah.
I can't
point-
remember what I said, but item 3 is the 23rd of December 2024.
Yeah. Got it. Okay.
I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour?
I have a question, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Hay.
Could I have some clarification on what changes we have made given the natural disaster that occurred on the 25th of December and the consequences of that, given that we were in short staff mode at that time? Have there been any additional changes made in the event that we suffer such an emergency again in a period when most staff are absent?
Absolutely. It's a good question, Councillor, in light of what everyone went through, and yes, that has been taken on board, and I'll, through the CEO, address that question.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Hay. We've probably had, the executive team have probably had 3 to 4 meetings in relation to ensuring the appropriate staffing would be in place if there is a natural disaster. There has been recruitment of volunteers to be in the incident management team should there be a natural disaster. Predominantly those people are located within the municipality. We're kind of stuck in a couple of ways due to the enterprise bargaining agreement, what's been outlined in that. We're not that far away, probably about 4 months away before we start negotiations on that. And one of the things that we would be looking through for is the option for people, rather than having an entire close or shutdown, for people to be able to work through that. So that's yet to be negotiated, but it certainly is one on the table. There are enough people who have been listed as being here that can cover the initial stages of a natural disaster.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, councillor. No further questions? I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. I now move on to item 11.2, calling upon councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. It's my pleasure to introduce item 11.2, the appointment of the Local Disaster Management Group Additional Deputy Chair. As the Chair of the Local Disaster Management Group, I acknowledge it's very important that in times of natural disaster and emergencies, our region's Mayor is available to make comment and is seen as being a leader in this space. And by adding the Mayor as a Deputy Chair to the Local Disaster Management Group, that will fulfil that function and allow the Mayor to undertake that role in times of natural disaster. So without further ado, I shall move the recommendation, which is that Council adopt the Mayor of the Scenic Rim Regional Council, Councillor Tom Sharp, as an additional Deputy Chair of the Scenic Rim Disaster Management Group.
I'm happy to accept. Now, could we seek a seconder for that motion? Councillor Sanders, did you want to talk further to it, Councillor Moriarty?
No, thanks, Mayor. I believe it's fairly self-explanatory and, you know, a positive move.
Any questions from the floor? Councillor Hay?
No, thank you.
I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. I now move to item 11.3 and call upon Councillor Sanders to introduce.
And I'll actually ask Councillor Cryer to handle this for me if she wouldn't mind.
Yes, thank you. I'll handle this one for Councillor Sanders. I'd like to introduce item 11.3, Destination IQ, Destination Q Forum and Queensland Tourism Awards. These are part of Queensland Tourism Industry Tourism Week, and additionally, as an entrant in the Queensland Tourism Awards, the Council is seeking nomination for an official representative to attend the 2024 Queensland Tourism Awards Gala, the awards to be held on the evening of the 15th of November 2024 in Brisbane. In the days leading up to the awards, Queensland's foremost annual First Nation Tourism Conference, Destination IQ, and the industry's premier tourism forum, Destination Q, will also be held in Brisbane on the 13th and 14th, respectively. With tourism being one of the two biggest industries within the Scenic Rim, and with Council being an entrant in the Queensland Tourism Awards Excellence in Food Tourism category, for which Council won a silver award in 2022 and bronze in 2023, it is appropriate the organisation be represented at the awards and at the Destination IQ Conference and Destination Forum. So I would like to move to the recommendation that one, Council nominate and endorse a councillor or councillors as the official representatives to attend the Destination IQ Conference being held on 13th of November 2024 in Brisbane. 2, Council nominate and endorse a councillor / S as the official representatives to attend the Destination Q Forum being held on 14th of November 2024 in Brisbane. 3, Council nominate and endorse a councillor as the official representative to attend the 2024 Queensland Tourism Awards Gala ceremony being held on the evening of the 15th of November 2024 in Brisbane. And 4, Council endorse the purchase of tickets and accommodation expenses for the nominated representative, noting the events are being held in Brisbane.
Thank you, councillor, for introducing it. Now, in terms of the recommendation, we will need, in the case of 1, 2 and 3, a nomination, but asking, well, I guess in the instance, I'll just make the point to whether or not we should send someone. I will make the point that the tourism industry to this region is a highly important sector in terms of the revenue that it generates, the income and the profits to many businesses in this region, the jobs that it creates, and that Scenic Rim is seen as a major contributor to tourism in this state. These awards are very important in recognising across the state the achievements that are made, and we need, as part of that, to put our best foot forward. So I would support a nomination, and then with that support from the fellow members, call upon Councillor Cryer to nominate a councillor to represent us in cases 1, 2 and 3.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to nominate Councillor Jennifer Sanders for section 1, 2 and 3 to attend
For the, but don't we have to put
to attend the
nomination?
Destination IQ conference.
Excuse me,
Yes,
Councillor
sorry.
Cryer. With the, wouldn't you put the name in as part of the motion?
We haven't got a motion.
Well, we haven't
Okay.
got a motion yet, it's only been moved.
Put it as part of the
Yeah.
So
recommendation.
you could, councillor Cryer move the motion, so we could move, second and vote on it, and then do separate nominations
For each one?
for each one.
Okay. I thought we could shorten that just by putting the
Sorry.
name straight into the recommendation.
No, well, you could have, before it was moved.
All right, do you want to move your motion first? Just
You
try,
did move that. You did move that.
Sorry,
call upon a seconder.
Councillor Moriarty was that?
That was Councillor McInnes. So we now move to any further questions on the motion,
Can I move an amendment to the motion, Mr Mayor?
please.
Can I move the amendment that Councillor Jennifer Sanders' name be replace the councillor's name in the first 3 items?
Do you accept?
I'd like to accept that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's right, Carl. So, Mr Mayor, is there a second?
Do we have a seconder to the amendment? Councillor Moriarty. Any questions to the motion?
If I may make, without speaking against the amendment, I just wonder whether, if available, the mayor should go along to that as well. It's, yeah, we've done very well out of these tourism awards, and it's important that we be there, and that's not taking anything away from Councillor Sanders, but it's, if the mayor was available too, I would think it would be a good thing to add your name to it, Mayor.
Any further comment or support for that suggestion? Councillor Cryer.
yes, I'd like to concur with Councillor McInnes because I think it's a significant event to be represented at as well. So if that was indeed possible, maybe to be included if upon availability.
All right, well, I will accept the suggestion on the basis of availability. I'll just make the comment that I'm very confident that Councillor Sanders will do an excellent job in representing us. And if I am available, I will be there in support of that.
I'm happy to include that in my amendment.
So Councillor Sanders will nominate as council representative in paragraphs 1, 2 and 3 of the motion. And the mayor,
Include the mayor, if available.
also be endorsed to attend all 3 events, is that? All 3 events?
Yes.
Can I add just something else, Mr. Mayor? Just we've just been notified too that on the 13th of November there's a briefing session. So I know we're talking about availability, but that just may mean we have a few people less on the briefing session on that day.
Top one, yeah.
It's dependent on availability. Noted, thank you.
So I need a vote
Okay.
on that amendment.
All right, but we have a seconder. So
What I'm saying, we just need a vote off initially.
I'll
on the
now put
amendment.
it to the floor. Sorry.
Sorry, just before you put it to the floor, Mr. Mayor, and not to extend the discussions much longer on this, would it be a good idea for the mayor to put in a proxy should he not be able to attend?
Oh my goodness, we're dragging this out. Councillor Chalk, would you like to make an amendment suggesting I would suggest that the Deputy Mayor could possibly make my proxy if I am unavailable?
Yeah, happy to include that in my amendment, Sharon.
You're willing to accept?
Yes, Mayor, it's part of the role. If you can't fulfil something, I should be doing that. No problems from my end.
I've got to reread this.
Yeah, just for clarity, for people that are watching at the moment, we just had a discussion this morning to talk about who was going to attend, and yeah, we've just got to make sure that we're doing all the procedural things correctly. So that's why there's a little bit of mirth in the chambers at the moment.
That's your amendment, councillor Chalk. That's your amendment. Unless you want to change it.
Okay, there are no further questions or suggestions. I now put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Thank you. Carried unanimously.
So that's just the amendment, Mr. Mayor, not the whole motion. So give me 1 moment.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll have to do,
I seem to have lost audio. Am I still connected?
You are, councillor.
Thank you.
okay, believe that's now the amended motion, councillor, moved by councillor Kerry Cryer and seconded councillor Duncan McGuinness. So we need a vote on that amended motion.
Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 11.4 and I call upon Councillor Hay to introduce. Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item
Just hold on
11.4.
1 second.
Sorry, the conflict of interest, councillors.
Yes. So with that, could you raise your conflict of interest? Councillor Moriarty.
So as previously explained, Mayor, I run a small camping business on my property. I'm currently trying to work to compliant under the Scenic Rim planning scheme with the Scenic Rim Regional Council.
Sorry, through Mr Mayor, so are you seeking a declarable interest?
I think it's in the public interest that I declare a declarable conflict of interest.
Yep. And through Mr Mayor, are you asking, will you be remaining in the room or asking your councillors to have a vote on whether you remain in the room?
I would be asking the councillors that I be able to remain in the room for the discussion and for the vote and suitably represent my constituents who elected me to do so.
I'll put it to the members. Are there any questions for Councillor Moriarty? Any determination and are happy for Councillor Moriarty to participate in the meeting and vote?
Mr Mayor, if he's so comfortable, I would be happy with that.
Councillors, we need to move a motion, so.
So, sorry.
So if we can put a motion forward on the floor.
So through Mr Mayor, councillor Sanders, are you moving that councillor Moriarty?
I would be, yeah. Sorry, I'd like to move that councillor Moriarty, who has declared a declarable conflict of interest, be able to stay in the room and vote on for item 11.4.
Seconded to the motion. Councillor McGuinness. Put it to the floor. Oh, well, I assume you don't want to talk to the motion any further. Put it to the floor. Those in favour?
So that was discussion and vote.
Sorry, councillor, can you repeat?
In favour.
In favour.
The seconder was Councillor McInnes. And carried unanimously.
No, just, sorry, through Mr Mayor, just carried.
Carried.
Yes.
Councillor Moriarty did not vote.
Did not vote. Councillor Hay, I'll let you allow
Thank
you
you,
to.
Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to introduce item 11.4, compliance and enforcement policy and procedure. This is a new policy and procedure in draft form that has largely come about as a result of the fact that we don't have these current policies and procedures, and also there's been a 75% increase over the last 6 years in the number of compliance matters that councils had to deal with. So for, in the interest of consistency and transparency, it's necessary to have an enforcement policy which clearly articulates the level of actions that council will undertake going forward. Having said that, I would like to move the motion that, just bear with me while I get to the right page. I'd like to move option 2, that council not adopt the new compliance and enforcement policy or endorse the compliance and enforcement procedure in the current form, and request amendments be made for consideration at a future meeting. The reason for that is, having gone through both documents, I believe there's room for improvement, and it's fairly critical that we get this right from its implementation going forward. So I do think that we should be putting further consideration into these 2 documents before we vote on adopting them.
Can I get that motion read again?
Yeah.
Stanley? 'Cause I
So
wasn't
councillor
ready.
Hay, could you just read that motion again, please?
It's on page 22 of the agenda. It's option 2, that council not adopt the new compliance and enforcement policy or endorse the compliance and enforcement procedure in the current form, and request amendments be made for consideration at a future meeting.
Here you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Cryer. Councillor Hay, do you want to talk to your motion?
No, Chair, I don't think further discussion's necessary at this point. I think I've said what I needed to say. I just think this needs slightly more work before it's put to a vote.
Does anyone wish to talk against the motion? With that expired, I put it to the floor. Those in favour? And councillor Hay?
In favour?
Motion carried unanimously. Now call upon councillor Cryer to introduce item 11.5.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to, I'd like to introduce 11.5, Scenic Rim Planning Scheme Draft Amendment 8. Hang on, sorry. Just lost where I was at. I take the report as read. This report relates to the whole Scenic Rim region. The draft amendment number 8 to the Scenic Rim Planning Scheme 2020 has been prepared for Council's consideration and endorsement to proceed to a state interest review. This amendment updates a variety of policy matters in the planning scheme and incorporates the first phase of amendments to implement the Scenic Rim Growth Management Strategy. At this time, I would like to move the motion. I'd like to recommend that option 2 is adopted, that Council not endorse the attached draft amendment number 8 to the Scenic Rim Planning Scheme 2020 in its current form, and request amendments to be made for consideration at a future meeting. I appreciate that the officers and the staff have put a great deal of time and expertise into the proposed amendment for the planning scheme, so that it is in keeping with Council's commitment to maintain the planning scheme as a living policy instrument which can evolve to respond to emerging issues. But I feel there are certain items contained within the document which require resolution in terms of specific definitions. In item 1, for example, the dwelling supply target is specified for the Scenic Rim local government area in 2046, requiring that 12% of new dwelling growth to come from low-rise attached housing, which is on page 11. Now, this allows for a building height of 3 stories, yet the amendment states the proposed limit for low-rise attached to be 4 stories. This is specified as an acceptable outcome for the height in the table 6.2.12.3.1 as an acceptable outcome number 2, but I believe it needs clarification if it's to be 3 stories or 4 stories. In item 4, amendments to encourage retirement and residential care facilities at Tamborine Mountain. clarification is needed around what constitutes a small scale or large scale in relation to the retirement facilities and residential care facilities, and also around the terminology, what constitutes a residential care facility and what constitutes an actual retirement facility should also be made. There's in item 5, revised levels of assessment and policy for residential care facilities and retirement facilities. There is also no apparent limit to the number of bedrooms in low, medium density residential zones. Other items, number 7, 12 and 15, also need review. This will be spoken about further. So at this time, I feel the Scenic Rim Planning Scheme Draft Amendment 8 is mainly, it's a very good document, but should be left on the table just to clarify those few items until further adjustments can be made. Thank you.
I'm not sure about the term leaving on the table, but Councillor Cryer, you also made a recommendation. So thank you for your introduction and your explanation of where you're coming from. Would you now just put to the members the actual motion as a motion?
It's on the screen.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Chair. I would like to move the motion that Council not endorse the attached draft amendment number 8 to the Scenic Rim Planning Scheme 2020 in its current form, and request amendments to be made for consideration at a future meeting.
Thank you. Call upon a seconder to that motion. Councillor Sanders.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Hay.
Yeah, too slow.
You have introduced and made your stance, Councillor Cryer. Would you like to talk to your motion?
No, I think that I said enough for the moment. There's just a few little things that I think need clarification in the definitions, and just moving forward, that I think if at this time, if it's just amended in certain areas, it'll be fine to go ahead at a future meeting.
Anyone wishing to talk against the motion?
Just a question, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Certainly.
If I direct it to the CEO through the staff, just wondering whether if there is any negative implications of us prolonging this process.
Thank you for the question, and through the chair. We are not on time restrictions on this amendment. It is an amendment that we're bringing forward that doesn't have any time restrictions into the future, so this delay will not be an issue.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to support it if we've got time to go through it and make sure we get it right. Work with the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wishing to talk? Yes?
Sorry, could I speak additionally, please?
Can you speak to the motion? Certainly, Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I concur with the comments made by Councillor Cryer. This is an incredibly important amendment, and it's quite vital that we get the wording precisely correct so that we're not left with unintended consequences if we don't get it right from the beginning. So I think it's important that we take the time to revisit this, to get it how we want it, to avoid unintended consequences in the future. And given that there are no time restrictions on what we're proposing to do, I recommend a motion.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to talk against?
Can I just speak further to the motion, Mayor, if that's possible?
Yes.
So I'd just like to commend Councillor Cryer on her diligence in going through the document and obviously offering some insight into the concerns that she has about it. I'd just further like to comment on the importance of our planning scheme as being a very strategic document and a way for the council to share its vision with the community for what we want for the region moving forward, the types of development that we want and where we want them. I think it is very important, as Councillor Hay and Councillor Cryer and Councillor Chalk have all mentioned, that this document reflects the strategic vision of our council, and that we get this right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. No one wishing to speak additionally, I will then put it to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Motion carried unanimously. I now move on to item 11.6 and call upon Councillor McGuinness.
Thanks, Mayor. Introducing the MCU 24-045 material change of use preliminary approval for variation request to override the Scenic Rim planning scheme to establish the Scenic Rim Agricultural Industrial Precinct, Cunningham Highway, Calbar, Lot 1, RP 216694, and lots 2 to 4 on SP 192221, and lot 2 RP 20974, and lot 2 RP 44024. Mayor, this is to do with the stated in the heading for these Scenic Rim Agricultural Industrial Precinct. It is a state development area, and we're going through this process. We're still involved in it, but to keep it rolling, I think everyone's read the detail on it, and I would like to recommend that one, council receive and note the report titled MCU 24-045 preliminary approval for variation request involving a material change of use to override a Scenic Rim planning scheme to establish the Scenic Rim Agricultural Industrial Precinct, Cunningham Highway, Calbar, Lot 1, RP 216694, Lots 24, SP 1922221, Lot 2, RP 20974, and Lot 2 of RP 44024. And number 2 of the recommendation, council approve the development application preliminary approval variation request MCU 24045, subject to the conditions contained in Appendix A, Attachment 3. And 3, council note that any subsequent request for a negotiated decision, notice and or change of applications to the preliminary approval variation request MCU 24045 will be processed via delegated authority where the changes would not significantly alter the original decision. So I so move, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Could I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Chalk, thank you. Councillor McGuinness, would you like to talk to the motion?
No, I don't know whether I've got anything to add to the recommendation, and we it's part of the process we're moving along there with the agricultural precinct, and which will be good for the district.
Absolutely. Councillor Sanders?
I just wanted to mention something as well, that the project will reportedly require $291 million in investment and an estimated 641 full-time equivalent jobs over 10 years for construction and 475 jobs during operation. It sounds like a wonderful opportunity for our region.
Councillor Chalk?
Just one clarification. Councillor McGuinness referred to it as a state development area, but it's actually a coordinated project through the Coordinator General. So that's, I'm sure, what he meant.
Thank you, Councillor Chalk.
It's good that we're picking up all the technical hitches today. Thank you, Councillor Chalk. acknowledged. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? With that said, I'll put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Now move on to item 11.7 and call upon Councillor Moriarty to introduce that item, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to introduce item 11.7, review of the asset management policy. I take the item as being read and just present the recommendation as presented. The draft recommendation for the ordinary meeting, the draft recommendation for the ordinary meeting is that Council adopt the amended asset management policy. I think that's just being amended as I speak. There's a lot of amendments happening. The motion is the Council adopt the amended asset management policy.
Council policy.
I apologise. Asset Management Council, I'll start again. So I present the motion that Council adopt the amended Asset Management Council policy.
Can I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Chalk. Councillor Moriarty, would you like to talk to the motion?
I don't believe so, Mayor. I think the motion's fairly self-explanatory, and unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions from the members?
I just wanted to note that I believe this is a document that's pretty dynamic. We change it as we need to, or fairly regularly, and there's continuous improvement happening at all times.
Thank you. I might have one quick question through the chair, if I may. Look, in relation to this policy, you've made 10 rather major commitments. It's a heavy body work. It's a big demand if you read through those commitments. I know it's not an easy question to answer, but I think it's important in terms of, for the public, the sort of confidence that the constituent have around council delivering on those commitments in the policy.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'll go to the General Manager.
Thank you, CEO, and I'll turn to manager assets and manager capital works and asset management.
Could I just, sorry, my apologies, could I answer that? Particularly around where you're talking point 3, financial sustainability. And if you look at in terms of the council commentary, with over $1 billion in assets and a depreciation schedule, and our ability to maintain those assets going forward under the financial constraints that we currently have. Thank you.
Question. Microphone, Shane.
Sorry about that. Yes, there are a number of things on that policy, and a number of these things are currently underway, particularly around that investment decision. The state had recently changed their guidelines in relation to the sustainability ratio, so we're currently working through that to make sure that we're compliant from that, and over the next few months, particularly coming back to council in relation to the 10-year capital plan, highlighting where some of those investment decisions we'll have to make around what is actually required from an asset management point of view and where we stand currently from a sustainability point of view. So a number of these actions will be coming back to council in the near future and are underway. The improvement plan, number 5, in relation to developing this work, we're finding where we may have little bits of gaps in our data or other improvements there, and we've currently started working on our improvement plan, and that will be part of the annual budget process going forward, of what we can afford to keep improving from that point of view. So yes, there are a number of things, but a lot of things are currently underway and will be presented back to council in the near future.
In addition to that, more particularly to your comment around the ability for council to meet these requirements, realistically, yes, we have seen over a number of years quite a considerable increase in the cost to construct new and to rebuild existing assets. it certainly will be a challenge for the community to either accept increased costs for a level of service, or you pull the lever of reduced level of service that the assets will provide. So the data by which the manager has spoken about will certainly provide us with more detailed information on understanding how, if we don't invest, what that means as a service level outcome. So the reality of it is, with what has happened over the last few years, has certainly had to cause us to rethink how we invest in the 10-year program on our assets.
Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you to the GM and the manager for your input into that. I'm just thinking that given the condition of our region's roads in particular, probably the most common, if not, or definitely the most common for me, issue raised with me by residents and ratepayers is the condition of the region's road networks, and acknowledging the comments made about the investment required to maintain those assets moving forward. I think one of the real challenges for this council is going to be moving forward is working out ways of, first of all, working more efficiently ourselves in the way we deliver services, but also sourcing other sources of income from other levels of government and other places, grants and so on and so forth, to ensure that this region is able to service the region, service the roads to a standard which is acceptable and appropriate for our residents and ratepayers. So acknowledging the challenge in that area is very large, but also that we need to be working very hard to come up with solutions to get a better outcome for our ratepayers and residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone further questions? No? Anyone wish to talk against the motion? I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Move on to item 11.8 and call upon Councillor Chalk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today I'll introduce report 11.8, the 2023-2024 Infrastructure Capital Works Program Delivery, June 2024. I'll take the report as being read and I'll move the following motion. That Council note the Infrastructure Capital Works Program update as presented.
Thank you. Call on seconder for that motion. Councillor Sanders. Councillor Chalk, would you like to talk to the motion?
I'll just probably highlight that the information that's provided to us councillors has been on the improve over the last 4 to 5 years. The detail now that we find in these documents is getting extensive and they're easy to read. So I congratulate the staff for going through that process of continuously improving this document. And as far as the detail, it's sort of seems like most things are on track, which is a good place to be.
Thank you. Any questions?
Chair, I have a question.
Councillor Hay?
Thank you, Chair. If we could turn to the table on page 92, please. Could we, through the Chair to the relevant officer, could we perhaps have a brief explanation of the second last column, projects, investigation / deferred for projects greater than $200,000, please? Or what's the logic behind that, or the cause, please?
And just noting there's 8 projects greater than $200,000.
Yep. Perhaps the same reasoning applies to all, I'm not sure.
I'll hand over to the Manager of Capital Works and Asset Management to answer the question.
Through the Chair, thank you for the question. A number of these projects...
Microphone.
apologise again. A number of these projects, still some finalisation needs to occur. If I can use one as an example, Verisdale Scrub Road project, where we've had a few issues negotiating with Main Roads in relation to the culverts underneath those roads, which are still still negotiating with Main Roads, as an example from there. Another one was around the been a workshop improvements, and with a bit of other work happening at the present point in time, just waiting to see some of those other outcomes before we commit to doing this work. So they're still being looked at or investigated. They're just those more technical or other agencies that we're dealing with to try to get a better outcome from council in as a bit of a summary rather than going into each of the individual items.
I guess
Thank you.
what the councillor might be getting at is that with these 8 projects that are potentially on schedule, will there be a disruption to the budget or the timeline? Are they critical at this point in time, or is it very early days?
Through the chair, most of them are still in that early stage, so we haven't committed too much money or too much down to the design path. We're still in that concept planning phase.
And potentially not going to have an impact on finalisation?
Correct.
Are you satisfied with that, Councillor Hay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? With that, I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay? Councillor Sanders?
In favour.
Thank you. Carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Hay.
Thank you.
I now move to item 11.9 and call upon Councillor Sanders.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 11.9, Containers for a Change Baskets, Beaudesert Trial Report. A trial of the Containers for Change baskets as an alternate service to public place recycling bins has been completed, and I'd like to put a motion, the motion being that Council note the successful completion of Containers for Change basket trial and endorse replacement of public place recycling bins with baskets at Boona and Tambourine Mountain.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Cryer. Do you wish to talk to your motion, Councillor Sanders?
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you. I think this has been a really positive change and a great trial. I'll just add a little bit of background. In October 2023, the Executive endorsed a trial of Pay It Forward stations to provide a safe, cost-effective and environmentally friendly alternate service to public place recycling bins. The little baskets on the side have been really, on the side of the rubbish bins, have been totally embraced. There was lots of feedback over the election period about how good the little baskets were and that everyone liked them. So I'm really happy that we're going to roll this out a little bit further. It seems like there's a bit of a cost saving there as well, and the trial basket placement trial has been very successful.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cryer.
Yes, I'd like to add also another positive effect. The baskets have actually reduced annual cost operation from $10,000 down to $1,000 approximately, which is a very good cost saving and a benefit to the community.
Thank you. Anyone looking? Councillor McInnes.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just wondering how I should introduce this part of it, but I've just found out recently through one way or another that in Europe, the 10 cents that we know it as is 25 cents over there, but 25 euro cents, which is equivalent to about 40 cents our in Australian dollars. So just showing you the change, and yeah, I'm not suggesting that we're going to have that going to 40 cents, but it's a big difference to what our 10 cents here.
It's interesting to know what's going on in other parts of the world. Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? I put it Councillor Hay.
No, sorry.
Yes.
Could I speak, please? Thank you. I'm speaking in favour of the motion. It's been highlighted as a result of the trial that was conducted that we were actually conducting recycling exercises in public places that were predominantly useless because people don't use the recycling bins properly, and a lot of the recycled items were contaminated with food waste. So by removing those recycling bins and utilising the 10-cent containers, we're streamlining the process considerably, which has resulted in the cost saving. Also, it provides the additional benefit for those people who are in need of some additional funds. They are removing the 10-cent containers from the boxes on the side of the bins, and they're not accumulating, so it's serving a useful purpose in that council's not responsible for removing those either. So overall, I think this has been a very successful trial, and I look forward to the rollout at Boonah and Tamborine Mountain. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. With that, and no one talking against, I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Carried unanimously. I now call upon Councillor Hay to introduce item 11.10.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 11.10, the 2024 interim report from the Auditor General. I take the report as read. Just bear with me a moment. I've got online notes. Okay. The report has been previously presented and discussed at the Audit and Risk Committee meeting on the 22nd of August 2024 as part of the external audit update. There is currently only one new issue which has been raised in the report, and that is in relation to the review of master file changes and user access in the payroll system. Action has already been undertaken to rectify this fresh issue, and would the relevant officer like to comment?
Through the chair to CEO to...
Can we?
Okay.
Okay, put the motion, bear with me, and change screens.
You can actually raise, you've introduced the item, you actually can ask the question before the motion.
Thank you.
But look, they've looked at me otherwise. I'll start again. Why not put the motion to the floor, Councillor?
All right. Okay. I put the motion that council, that in accordance with section 213 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, council note the Auditor General's observation interim report for the 2023-2024 financial year.
Thank you. Seconder for the motion, Councillor Sanders. Councillor, would you like to talk to your motion? Councillor Hay.
No, thank you. No, thank you, Chair.
You have a question? Or yes?
Sorry, I'm just going back through my notes again. Did the relevant officer wish to speak to the report at all in relation to the items that have been mentioned in the report, the outstanding items?
Through Ms. Mayor, the General Manager.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you, Councillor Hay. I think you've summed up the report quite well. The point that you've raised there, just with the existing matters, a number of those are expected to be finalised, and they were reviewed and currently being assessed by the external auditors, and we will receive a final
audit report from the councillors, from the external auditors to advise the status of those matters. So a number of those have been deemed to be rectified and sorted, but they just needed to be validated by the external auditors. So that's the only other commentary. And yeah, there's only one issue that was identified this year, and that was with the a process involving payroll master file data changes, which upon review of the process, rectification has already been undertaken.
Thank you, General Manager. I'd just like to comment that on page 107, you'll note that the final comment made by, in the report, states that based on the results of our testing completed to date, we have determined your internal control environment does support an audit strategy where we can rely upon your entity's controls. So that's quite heartening.
It is, Councillor, thank you. And I'll just note, it appears to be a reasonably quality report in terms of sets out well an explanation. It is regrettable that any organisation has deficiencies, but they do occur. This report clearly picks up those deficiencies and also provides the necessary information of how council are attending to them and rectifying those matters, and then going forward in recurring reports. We hope that that number, whilst and particularly in the current year issues, the deficiencies is only one. Prior years, there are not a great many in number, and there's only one significant deficiency. That they will be resolved and rectified. And I think it's clearly laid out and a good report, and the comments that Councillor Hay highlighted too, that we have an adequate process in place, is comforting. Thank you. Does anyone wish to talk against the motion? With that said, I will put it to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Call upon Councillor McGuinness for introduce item 1111.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 1111, Council Monthly Financial Report for August 2024. I take it people have read that. The recommendation is that Council note the unaudited financial statements for the period ended 31st of August 2024 for the financial year 2024-2025. I so move, and if there's any questions to the General Manager, I'm sure he'll try to answer those.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Sanders. Councillor McInnes, do you wish to talk to your motion?
No, I'm right. I don't think there's anything I'd like to highlight there in any form. There's a few things there, but yeah, nothing that's really standing out, I don't believe.
Are there any questions from the members?
Thank you, Chair. I have a question relating to page 124 under reseals. We had an original budget of $5,475,000, which was also revised to the same amount, and then it was revised down to 300,000, and we don't seem to, I don't think we've spent anything there. Could we have an explanation as to what's happened to change from $5,475,000 in the original budget down to 300,000 with a current $300,000 variation, please?
Councillor, that's okay. The original budget and the revised budget stand at $5.4 million. what you're looking at in terms of the $300,000 is the year-to-date budget. Okay,
Yes,
and then the year-to-date actual spend has been zero, which leaves $300,000 unspent. So that's the variation. So there's no change at all to the budget. And then I guess we could revise your question through the CEO. That expects the year-to-date budget, why that $300,000 is not being spent.
and
Thank you for the question.
the question is more, why have we spent, so little so far?
Because we're only into the first quarter now of the new financial year. Okay, but I will allow through the CEO to the GM. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for the question. Just at this point in time, it was anticipated we would have actually started the prep work, which is prior to applying the seal. It took a little longer to actually get the impacts of the flooding we had earlier in the year through the system, so that we actually make sure that we're not actually undertaking additional work where work was otherwise going to be triggered through the flood program. I have since signed off the list of roads for reseal this year, and the work is starting to or is underway as we speak.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you. I think in terms of this month's report, it's quite a good executive summary and sets out well the variations, and nothing is wildly, those in the audience or constituents will appreciate that there is nothing wildly out of order, given the major anomaly has been accounted for through the financial assistance grants. No one wanting to talk against the motion. I then put it to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. I now call upon Councillor Moriarty to introduce item 11.12.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 11.12, the 2024 to 2025 carry forward budget review. I take the report as read and move the recommendation as suggested, that in accordance with sections 169 and 170, section 3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the 2024 to 2025 carry forward budget review as outlined in the 1. Revised Statement of Comprehensive Income for 2024 to 2025 through 2026 to 2027 inclusive. 2. Revised Statement of Financial Position for 2024 to 2025 through 2026-2027 inclusive. 3. Revised Statement of Cash Flows for 2024 to 2025 through 2026 to 2027 inclusive. And 4. Revised Statement of Changes in Equity for 2024 to 2025 through 2026-2027 inclusive. And 5. Revised Relevant Measures of Financial Sustainability.
Thank you, Councillor. Could I call upon a seconder to that motion? Councillor McInnes. Councillor Moriarty, you'd like to talk to your motion?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I'll just offer the following summary, which was kindly provided by the GM yesterday with regard to this item, and the GM indicates if anyone has any questions, he's more than happy to address those in this meeting. As with standard end of financial year procedures, council officers were tasked with reviewing their respective 23-24 budget areas to identify works that were required to be considered for carry forward into 24-25 revised budget. This budget review has resulted in an increase to Council's 24-25 operating result of $6.6 million, with the original adopted budget surplus of $0.4 million increasing to a surplus of $7 million. This is largely due to operating grants, including the Financial Assistance Grant and the DRFA Emergency Works. Capital expenditure carry forward requests of $83.7 million have been incorporated into the review, increasing Council's total capital expenditure budget to $118.7 million. This increase in capital expenditure is partly offset by carry forwards and capital grant revenue of $48.6 million and asset disposal revenue of $10.7 million. The review has resulted in an increase in cash of $2.3 million, partly due to a higher than budgeted level of infrastructure charges revenue received last financial year. And the GM is happy to take any further questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Hay?
No, no questions, thank you.
Anyone wish to talk against the motion? With that expired, I put it to the members. Those in favour of the motion? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Now turn to item 11.13 and call upon Councillor Hay. Thank you. Councillor Hay?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 11.13, Annual Internal Audit Plan for 2024 to 2025. And by way of introduction, I'd like to just reiterate the executive summary in that each year the internal audit works through a process to review and update the annual internal audit plan, including the strategic audit plan covering the next 4 years in total. The draft plan has been developed in consultation with the executive team and the Audit and Risk Committee. The plan was endorsed by the Audit and Risk Committee at the meeting held on the 22nd of August 2024. I'd like to move the motion that, I can find it, Council approve, excuse me, the Annual Internal Audit Plan 2024 to 2025.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Moriarty. Councillor Hay, would you like to talk to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to provide some additional information that's been provided to me by the General Manager yesterday. And that information is that the internal audit follows a structured process each year to consider Council's risks and to develop an appropriate draft internal audit plan. The draft audit plan was discussed in detail in the June and August audit review committee meetings. And the draft plan is coverage of a variety of risks across the whole organisation. Most people tend to think that internal audit relates purely to financial matters. That's not in fact the case if you go through the document that's been provided in the agenda. And there's a strategic audit plan covering the next 4 years is also included to show the expected coverage in that time frame of the types of internal audit activities that will be undertaken within Council. If there are any other questions, they can be directed through the General Manager. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Anyone wish to, any questions?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to make a quick note on this, if that's okay.
Please.
I just wanted to mention the factors of confidence in control and time since the last audit. I think this is very, very important that we have a structure in place, and of course we do have one, and the methodology should ensure compliance with local government regulations and the Institute of Internal Auditors requirements, and of course that's exactly what it does.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? With that said, I put it to the members. Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour.
Motion carried unanimously. And now move to item 11.14. And call upon Councillor Hay.
Just bear with me, I need to change screens again, given that it was a late item. Okay. Just have some connection activity happening here, just one moment please. Here we go. I would like to introduce late item 11.14, MCU 23/143, development permit for utility installation, groundwater extraction for water supply, 45 to 63 Hartley Road, Tamborine Mountain, Lot 2, RP 82745. I take the report as read. Within the agenda, there are the proposal plans and the conditions of approval that are proposed as well. This has been a fairly contentious development application, and I'll move on a little further. Council's in receipt of an application for a development permit for a material change of use for a utility installation, groundwater extraction for water supply. The proposed development has demonstrated compliance with the relevant codes of the Scenic Rim Planning Scheme 2020 through the material that's been submitted with the application. It wasn't necessary for council to ask for submissions for this particular development. However, informal submissions were made from concerned residents on the mountain in relation to this development application, as water supply on the mountain is a particularly sensitive issue. One of the issues that's of concern to local residents is the fact that there are several other commercial extraction facilities in very close proximity to this proposed development, but each development application is apparently assessed on its own merits without consideration of the other operators in the immediate vicinity. As everyone's aware, Tamborine Mountain does not have a reticulated water supply or sewage system in place, so the security of water supply locally is of paramount importance. I'd like to move the motion that, bear with me, I'll get to the right page again. It's a long item. Okay. Its motion is in three parts. Part 1, council receive and note the report titled MCU 23/143, development permit for utility installation, groundwater extraction for water supply, 45 to 63 Hartley Road, Tamborine Mountain, Lot 2, RP 82745. 2, council approved development application MCU 23/143 and granted development permit for material change of use, subject to the conditions contained in attachment 2. And 3, council note that any subsequent requests for a negotiated decision notice and or change applications to the approval MCU 23/143 will be processed via delegated authority where the changes would not significantly alter the original decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Could I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Cryer. Councillor Hay, would you like to talk to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I do support this motion Um, even after considering the concerns of the community and for those of us who have strong recollections of the many years spent in court in relation to the Power Parade water extraction case, I do have a couple of issues in that the extraction is likely to occur on an ephemeral watercourse, and I do have a couple of questions for the relevant officer in relation to that. It's stated that the water tanks will be located 6 metres from the ephemeral watercourse, but I could not find in the report anywhere where it stated where the actual bore will be located. Is that closer than 6 metres from the ephemeral watercourse, or is it within the ephemeral watercourse, or where is the precise location of the bore? It's difficult to tell from the diagram, so perhaps the relevant officer could address that, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, through the General Manager.
Thank you. I address the question to the team leader who's responsible for the report. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the bore has not yet been sunk, to my understanding. They need a licence to be able to do that. The location of that bore will be the responsibility of the department that issues the licence, and that would be the Department of Resources.
Councillor Hay.
Thank you. So basically we're being asked to vote on something where we don't, I already know the location of the bore, which seems somewhat odd. Now there is a requirement for, or this application was for household and residential water supply purposes, not for commercial groundwater extraction where the water would be being shipped off the mountain to go to a bottling plant, for example. Council has attempted to limit the scale of the use by limiting the size and the number of truck movements per day. And as I said, there are already 4 water extractors in the immediate locality, which does give some concern about the impacts on other extractors and the water that's going to be available. I'd just like to say that the following conditions are particularly relevant for those who are listening. Condition 5 does limit the operating hours and avoids school drop-off and pick-up times, given that Hartley Road is a particularly busy tourism road and also has those other extractors, and the proposed development is almost directly opposite the turn-off to the Tamborine Mountain State High School. There is a condition 11 relating to a second driveway that's going to be installed to service the development, which is a driveway crossover. And condition 14, the maximum weekly truck movements is limited to 70, which includes 56 heavy rigid vehicles of a maximum of 14,000 litre capacity and a maximum 10 truck movements per day. The remaining 14 truck movements are for 2,000 litres carrying capacity or less. I hope we don't see that this ends up morphing into a commercial groundwater extraction facility. And whilst we can't prevent that from happening, effectively by putting conditions on development applications such as this, we are turning the local residents and the neighbours into proxy compliance officers, because they will be the only ones who will be looking to ensure that the conditions of approval are adhered to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. I note in the application that the Planning Department, the 24 conditions that have been applied to take account of impact on residents and Tamborine Mountain. In terms of monitoring, the comment around monitoring compliance, I think that's an issue that we can't address today. That would be in another forum. That really comes down to addressing the level of service or the level of compliance that we want to apply to across this region.
Yes, I agree.
Any other questions? Anyone wish to talk against the motion? I put it to the floor. Those in favour of the motion? Councillor McInnes, Sanders? Councillor Hay,
In favour.
against the motion? We note, call for a division?
Is that a division?
No, sorry, motion carried.
5-1
And 5-1, and call for a division, please.
on the division?
Yeah,
It's actually 6-1, sorry, not
6-1. Can't count today either. So
Sorry, I don't have visibility.
I'm just
Who
about
voted
to,
against it.
yep, just about to share that with you. So councillor 1,
Thank you.
2, 3, 5, 6, and Mayor in favour, and Division 4, councillor against.
Thank you.
Councillor for Division 4 against. Councillor Sanders, yes. All right. Now we move into confidential items, and so I will call upon someone to move a motion that council move into confidential. Councillor McInnes, second by. Councillor Moriarty, put it to the floor. Those.
You need to
Can
read the
we
motion.
go, just
Hold on.
go from there?
You need to read the motion.
We're going to deal with the
Motion
conflict
first.
before we go into closed.
Yes, we'll need to do councillor Hayes' conflict.
Of course. Thank you, councillor Chalk. So the first one to address, do you want me to read the motion first, or? We'll
Yeah,
do
we
it.
need to
Councillor
do
Hay, could you
conflict, yeah.
declare your conflict? Raise your
Thank you,
conflict.
Chair. Yes, thank you. I declare a prescribed conflict of interest in item 12.2, the update on Eastern Asia Investment Proprietary Limited versus the Scenic Rim Regional Council and others, in that before I was elected as a councillor, I was a submitter against the development application, and I am currently a co-respondent by election in the current Planning and Environment Court appeal, so I will depart the meeting for that particular item. Thank you.
And intend not to vote?
Yes.
Participate and intend not to vote, yeah. Thank you. All right.
Just let that motion moved and seconded.
Someone move the motion?
I think we need to read it out.
Read it out,
So
yeah.
that in,
I can do it, Mr Mayor, if you like.
Councillor Chalk.
I'll move the following motion, that in accordance with Council's standing orders for council meetings policy and the provision of sections 254J3 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council close the meeting to the public to discuss confidential items as follows. 12.1, appointment of acting Chief Executive Officer, closed under S254J3A.
oh, sorry, I've skipped ahead, my mistake.
Not that dyslexic. And 12.2, update Eastern Asia Investments Pty Ltd versus Scenic Rim Regional Council and others. P&E number 534 of 2024, closed under section 254J3E. As discussions will be held about the appointment of an acting Chief Executive Officer in a Planning Environment Court legal matter.
Seconder? Councillor Moriarty. Put it to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay? Those not?
In favour.
Motion carried. Okay, we will now go into closed session and return on the half hour.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome back. Could I please have a motion from the floor to go back into open? Kerry? Councillor Cryer, sorry.
So, from here. There you go. Just following this bit. Just the shaded part.
Okay. Following discussion in closed session, council resumed in open session for the proposal of resolutions.
Seconded. Councillor Moriarty, those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour?
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Now I'll call upon Councillor Chalk to present item 12.1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll move a motion for item 12.1, appointment of an acting chief executive officer. The motion will read that pursuant to section 195 of the Local Government Act 2009, Council appoint General Manager, Council Sustainability, Mr. Oliver Pring, as a suitable qualified person to act as Chief Executive Officer during the period 29th of September 2024 to 15th of October 2024 inclusive.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Moriarty? Do you wish to talk to? No.
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone talking against? No. I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Hay?
In favour?
Carried unanimously. Now we come to item 12.2, and Councillor Hay, could I ask you just to repeat your declaration?
Thank you, Chair. I make a declaration that I have a prescribed conflict of interest in this agenda item, having been a submitter against the original development application, and I'm also currently a co-respondent by election in the current Planning and Environment Court appeal matter. I won't be participating in any discussion, nor will I be voting.
Thank you, Councillor. We will now, you will now leave the room. Thank you. Okay, now turn to Councillor Cryer to introduce item 12.2.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 12.2, update Eastern Asia Investment Pty Limited versus Scenic Rim Regional Council and others, P&E number 534 of 2024, closed, section 254J3E. After discussion, I'd like to move the motion that council note the appeal update and continue the current appeal process.
Thank you. A seconder? Councillor Sanders. No one looking to talk to the motion. I put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Those against? Call for a division. Councillors 2, 3, 4, 5 and Chair in favour, and Councillor McInnes Division 6 against. Motion carried. You're fine. Thank you everyone today, and thank you to those in the gallery. That now brings the meeting to a close at 12:04 p.m.
Are we bringing councillor?
No, you don't need to.
No, okay.
That's okay.
Thank you.